Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners. Audience members, I want to start by asking you to please silence your electronic devices. I would also like to remind you that in addition to the audience in this room, we have people watching and listening online, so please consider your language in comments and testimony today. Today's meeting is a hybrid board meeting. Some presenters and guests will appear in person, and some will appear virtually. For those presenting virtually, please mute your mics when not speaking, and when presenting, make sure to unmute your mic and turn on your camera. For those joining us in person to present or provide public testimony, please turn your mic on when you begin speaking so that the green light is showing, and off when you've completed your remarks so the red light is showing. For all presenters, please state your name for the record before speaking or responding to questions. May I have a motion on the consent calendar? Commissioner Singleton moves, Commissioner Brim Edwards seconds. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. The consent calendar is approved.
Opportunity for public comment on non-agenda matters. This is a time for the board to hear public testimony, not for board deliberation. When it is your turn to speak, I will call your name and unmute you or call you to the presenters table. I will set a timer for 3 minutes when you begin speaking and announce when your time is up, at which point please wrap up your sentence. We have 4 people signed up for verbal testimony. I'm going to call you guys up to the table. It's Jaron Zander, Dan Hagan, Injured and Pissed Off, and Lightning. Please come down to the table. You can begin, Dan.
Hi, sir, you can go ahead and begin. Yep.
Good morning, Chair Vega-Peterson, Commissioner Moyer, Commissioner Singleton, Commissioner Brim Edwards, and Joan Dixon. My name is Dan Hagan, and I'm here today to address serious concerns regarding civil rights violations at our county's central library, which I believe are in direct violation of Oregon law and are damaging to the community's trust in public services. Earlier this year, I raised an issue with this board concerning the Aging and Disability Office regarding unconstitutional signs and policies that restricted access and unfairly impacted vulnerable groups. I gave the county the opportunity to correct these practices before pursuing legal action, and I was thankful that a resolution was reached. However, what I'm addressing today is a far more egregious violation at the library that I feel cannot be ignored any longer. And I'm speaking specifically about violations under Oregon Revised Statute 192.371, which relates to the non-disclosure of public employee identification. This statute clearly states that a public body, like the library, cannot disclose the identification badge or card of an employee without the written consent of the employee if the badge contains a photograph and is, emphasis added, intended solely for internal use. More concerning, however, is the broader issue of how library employees under the direction of management are reportedly using false reports and discriminatory practices to deter patrons, particularly marginalized individuals, from accessing library services. It is one thing to unintentionally mishandle a situation, but to knowingly weaponize false reports against patrons is not only unethical, it is a violation of civil rights. The library's role is to serve all members of the community, regardless of their background, income, or any other characteristic. Unlike the situation at the Aging and Disability Office, where I tried to resolve the issue through dialogue, I feel compelled to take action here because of the gravity of these violations. The misuse of public resources to target and exclude certain individuals is something that cannot be allowed to continue unchecked. I'm here to ask this board to investigate the actions of the library staff and management, and to ultimately hold them accountable for any violations of civil rights or state law. If we are to have a truly inclusive and equitable public service system, we must ensure that all policies and actions align with the principles of fairness, transparency, and respect for everyone's rights. I urge you to take swift and decisive action to address these violations, protect public access to library services, and restore trust in our public institutions. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter, and I am hopeful that together we can bring about the changes necessary to ensure that our library system serves all members of the community equally and justly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning.
My name's Injured and Pissed Off, and I've been talking about a fuel truck that pulls up in front of the new Multnomah County courthouse, dumping fuel across the street into the dump station that's in the sidewalk where the fuel at, and that's highly dangerous. I'm surprised that since October 5th of 2020, I looked up as when it was open to the public that they're still doing that. I've come here to talk about Willamette Week Uninvited Guest. It was, you can look it up online, that's 4 words. If they could see me now, my name was then Paul Phillips. Now it's Injured and Pissed Off. That's my legal name. I had it changed at the old Multnomah County Courthouse. That was in 2017, February 3rd. I'll be 9 years old next year, February 3rd, and Injured and Pissed Off years, chronologically 71. Currently. My injuries, it wasn't like it was even it wasn't even an accident with 7 dog attacks on my service animal. The state and the city and county failed to support the law, even animal control. 7 dog attacks in less than 6 years. It's against Oregon law to even interfere with the service animal, not alone injuring them or the owners and being mistreated at the hospital. Bodily injury, I was talking about that the last time I was here. Grievous and bodily injury is damaging horseshoe kidney, ignoring 2 fractures to a spinal cord. I have memory and balance problems and chronic pain, and nothing was done about it. I've even had a broken thumb that was broken 1981 at a Lewiston hospital as an employee and totally ignored and blown off just like this Multnomah County Board of Commissioners, and I'm sure I pissed off Eric Holder with him being fired the date that I was talking about my service animal being attacked. And I hope to piss off the United States Department of Justice because I wrote them 4 times, registered mail, never got a reply. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super, No Justice, No Peace Lab. Well, Chair Peterson, I was surprised that you wouldn't want to do another term and enjoy my company, at least for another 4 years, so I'm a little upset about that. Now, but honestly, I thought you would at least try to do another 4 years, and in my opinion, I think you do a really good job, and I've never understood how the poll numbers have been so low with you, but you know, that's the community we live in. So anyway, sometimes that's the way things work out. Now, again, talking about your salaries, I used to do that at the City Hall, and they'd look at me and go, we've had so many disagreements, and you're the only one in here saying we should get a pay raise and be paid higher. I think all the commissioners should be paid, in my opinion, anywhere from $200,000 to $250,000. and the chair should be paid at a minimum $400,000 to $500,000. And when you look at some of the salaries over at City Hall, and just a couple people just got hired, one person I think was hired in at $400,000. None of you should have low salaries. Now, I know a lot of you would say, well, we don't work for the money. Well, that's not the point. You do a tremendous amount of work for the money you receive, and you should be paid in a fair manner. And so I'm proposing again $200,000 to $250,000 for the commissioners, and again to bring Chair Peterson's up to at least $400,000 to $500,000. And it's my understanding that you can do a vote amongst yourselves to approve that. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think that's how they did it at City Hall. Now let's get back to Intel with Lip Bhutan. My good friend, they are really attacking you. TSMC is unloading, coming after you with their high-profile attorneys. They're trying to just stop Intel in their tracks. And now I want to make it very clear to Lip Bhutan. I expect you to bring the value of Intel up to $1 trillion. And again, at that point, I expect you to receive a $500 million bonus for doing that. Intel will surpass TSMC. And the way they're aggressively going after you right now, they're already saying that's going to happen. They're going to try to stop you any way they can. And let me say this to you. You're in the perfect position to take Intel up to $1 trillion, $2 trillion, up to $3 trillion. And I expect every time you push it up $1 trillion, you will receive a $500 million bonus. I want that in your pay package. I want that put in immediately. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
One last call for Jaron Zander. That's it for non-agenda testimony, and we can move on to R1, ratification of collective bargaining agreement 2025 to 2028 between Multnomah County and AFSCME Local 88-2 physicians and psychiatrists.
Commissioner Brim Edwards moves, Commissioner Singleton seconds, approval of R1. So thank you so much for being here this morning. I am really proud of all the employees who have been working hard to develop agreements on our labor contracts. Today we're discussing the physicians bargaining unit. I've heard that both bargaining teams were exceptionally focused and really, worked at this a lot to get this great outcome. So I would just want to say thank you to all of the folks that were involved. I'm going to pass it over to Elian Sessa to share the details of the agreement with us. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Elizabeth Calixto, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Interim Labor Relations Director for Multnomah County, and with me is the Interim Central Human Resources Director, Cessa Diaz. Thank you for having me today. I'm here to request board ratification of the tentative agreement reached in successor bargaining with AFSCME Local 88-2 Physicians and Psychiatrists Unit. I served as lead negotiator for these negotiations. This was a collective effort from many county employees on both union and management bargaining teams, and I would like to take a moment to thank everyone for their dedication and hard work. From Labor Relations, I would like to recognize my bargaining co-chair, James Apoka. From the Health Department, I would like to recognize Jonathan Wexler, who was with the Health Department at the time, Celeste Noodleman, Amy Henninger, Tony Gaines, Charlene Maxwell, Debbie Powers, and Daniel Martinez Tovar. We're also fortunate to have the subject matter expert support from our budget and class comm teams, Leah Isaac and Tony McCasker, respectively. From the union, I would like to thank Adam Korst, Brian Dunaville, Melissa Moore, Jeffrey Barrett, Philsa Akart, and Kimberly Sabel. The county and Local 88 entered into negotiations on May 2nd of 2025 and had 8 bargaining sessions. We reached a tentative agreement on a 3-year contract on November 17th of 2025. The union provided its notice of ratification to Human Resources recently on December 2nd. It now comes before the Board of Commissioners for ratification. This successor CBA covers a 3-year term from July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2028. Key provisions of this contract include a 2.4% COLA adjustment in the first year of the contract, retroactive to July 1st of 2025. Psychiatrists will also see a 3.4% market adjustment upon ratification of the CBA. In years 2 and 3 of the CBA, we will see a COLA adjustment between 1% and 4%. There will be a new premium of 2% for providers who provide in-language services in more than one non-English language. In terms of professional development, the county will increase the amount it will reimburse employees for professional fees and continuing education from $2,500 to $3,000 per fiscal year, prorated by FTE, and will increase board certifications and recertifications from $1,000 to $1,250 every 3 years to include stethoscope replacement. In the way of paid leaves, an additional one-time vacation credit of 40 hours of vacation prorated by FTE will be added into new employees' vacation banks upon hire in recognition of ongoing recruitment challenges. Similarly, regular status and limited duration employees shall receive a one-time 40-hour of longevity recognition leave prorated by FTE upon completion of each 8-year longevity interval. Overall, both teams worked together to resolve a variety of issues and come to an agreement that supports both the county's operational needs and the needs of the county's physicians and psychiatrists. I believe this agreement is a testament to the strong working relationship between the county and AFSCME Local 88 Physicians Unit, and I am personally proud of the collaborative effort that led to this positive outcome. Thank you again, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Appreciate all the work on this again. Tasia, did we have any public testimony on this item?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, we'll go to the board for any questions on this. We'll start with Commissioner Jones-Dixon.
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Brehm-Edwards?
I don't have any questions. I do want to thank the bargaining team for coming to a resolution and bringing this forward. Is there anyone from the union here this morning to speak? Okay, just wanted to check. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Singleton?
No questions for me either. Thank you for the work on this, and I know the other collective bargaining agreements you're working on at the same time.
Thanks. Commissioner Moyer?
Yeah, this is great. I'm always excited when a tentative agreement is reached. What is the timeline for member ratification? And do you know when we would know that?
Yeah, the member ratification from the unit side came through on December 2nd.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, well, fantastic. I'm excited to support this.
Great, thank you so much. Tasia, can we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Moyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Brehm-Edwards? Yes. Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
Yes, thank you.
Chair Vega-Peterson?
Yes, the agreement is approved. Great job.
R2, resolution reaffirming and strengthening the county's sanctuary status, actions, and advocacy.
Commissioner Brehm-Edwards moves, Commissioner Jones-Dixon seconds, approval of R2. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here for this resolution this morning. Thanks to everyone in the audience who is here today for this item. I'm really grateful for the countless people in the community, county employees, especially our immigrant and refugees, for their passion, advocacy, and input. We would not be here today without you. This is the first of 2 board actions today to reaffirm and strengthen the county's sanctuary status and to allocate resources that can help our community respond to the ongoing unlawful attacks against our immigrant communities by the Trump administration. It is an auspicious day to be taking action. Today, December 18th, communities across Oregon are uniting for a day without immigrants, a day where immigrants and their allies are encouraged to withhold their labor and engagement in other economic activities in order to highlight just how indispensable immigrants are, not just to our economy, but to the very fabric of our communities and our society. On this day and every day, we must never forget that America is not just a country that welcomes immigrants. It is a country that in many ways was born of immigrants, because with the exception of our indigenous communities, the vast majority of our families have origins from someplace else. The story and experience of immigrants, their pursuit of a better life for themselves and their loved ones, is the story of America. It is both central to our identity and the source of our most treasured values. Throughout both our national and local history, there has always been a tension between welcoming and rejecting the stranger. But in my lifetime, and especially in the last 9 years that I've held elected office here in Multnomah County, I have seen the progress that has been made locally to enshrine our values of diversity, equity, and respect for all community members, regardless of where they're from. Almost exactly 9 years ago, in 2016, Multnomah County codified our values and our stance as a sanctuary county. That resolution declared our commitment to equity and respect for all community members by assuring and affirming they are able to continue accessing county resources and services regardless of their immigration status. That action was a response to the election of Donald Trump to his first term in office, and while the need was great then, it is nothing compared to what we're seeing now. Today, as families are being torn apart by masked agents across our county and our state, as parents, grandparents, sons and daughters are being harassed and kidnapped on their way to work, to school, to seek care, based on the color of their skin and regardless of their citizenship status, we must act. We must act because these are not strangers. These are our neighbors, our family members, our loved ones. Their stories and experiences are our stories and experiences. And each and every act of terror enacted on these community members is assault against our entire community. In response to the horrific attacks that we've seen on our immigrant communities as a result of this federal administration, on December 12th, I declared a state of emergency. The emergency allows the county to, 1, move money more quickly to organizations serving people in need, allows for greater flexibility to organize employees in responding to emergency needs, and to pursue flexibility with existing contracts and providers, something that we've heard loud and clear in my conversations with providers and community. In partnership with Commissioner Singleton, on Monday, December 17th, a town hall was held where over 80 people attended, and we listened to 90 minutes of public testimony. Those testimonies and prior community engagement helped shape the resolution and the actions that are in front of us today. We continue to act to meet this moment. We will sustain an emergency operations center to coordinate our response to all the actions of this administration. We will be getting emergency assistance out the door quickly. We will continue to make improvements to our internal policies and practices, and will continue to explore how we can mitigate harm and support our immigrant and refugee communities and employees now and into the future. I want to thank Commissioner Singleton and her staff for their leadership and partnership on this work. I want to thank my staff for all of their work on this. I know that my team has really enjoyed working and collaborating with your office to deliver for our community, and just really want to show appreciation for that. With that, I will pass it over to Commissioner Singleton for additional remarks.
Thank you, Chair. And I also want to thank staff who have been working on this pretty tirelessly. It's been a huge lift for the amount of community engagement that's happened, and I really appreciate that work. When I was sworn in, I had my full team with me, and we sat down and spoke about what my priorities would be, and this was one of them. Through conversations and hearing from the lived experience of immigrants and their families, this was part of why we wanted to make this a priority for District 2. My staff has been working on this issue since February, and we got trained, luckily pretty early, to be MigraWatch volunteers and really make sure that we were out there engaging and supporting our community. We're dedicated to making sure that immigrant and refugee communities know that we stand with them. I'm proud to have something that reflects the last few months of work, and I want to thank you, Chair, as well, for your partnership and your staff for their time and partnership to move this work forward. It gives me hope for the ordinance we're currently drafting and bringing forward in early 2026, so this is our first action. There will be more to come. I also want to briefly just remind us, as feels important, is that you know, a lot of times people say we're a country of immigrants and Black folks were stolen from their land, and it's important for me to continue to point that out. I want to take this time to read an excerpt from the resolution itself. Quote, "The integrity of Multnomah County's sanctuary status commitment requires action, continuous efforts, training, and institutional alignment with the county's core values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Where this authoritative regime at the federal level is targeting and damaging our communities, we need to be intentional and restorative." And I will hand it over to Garrett and Salome to take us into the presentation.
All right, Chair, Commissioners, my name is Garrett Pryor, he, him pronouns. I'm the Chair's Senior Policy Advisor on Infrastructure.
Omaleua. My name is Salome Chimuku. I am the Policy Director for Commissioner Shannon Singleton.
Excellent. And do we mind, as we pull up the PowerPoint here, I remiss as a former high school history teacher, just to make a quick note here. Just in the last 6 months, the latest PERC reported numbers, the 191 people that have been taken from the Hillsborough-Beaverton area, the 189 people that have been taken from the Portland area, the 70 people who've been taken and kidnapped from Woodburn, the 63 people who've been taken from Salem, and the 55 from Gresham. Many of these communities, why they're so Latino heavy, and that is because the Bracero movement during World War II. These were the communities that helped us defeat fascism and win this. And so it's just disheartening and such so apparent the racial explicitness in this approach that's happening today. So with that, let's go to the next slide. So today we're going to talk about the previous board action and input, a vast amount of the feedback we've received, how that's directly led to the language that you see here in the resolution, and some of the next steps. Next slide. So in 2016, as the chair noted, this was right after the first Trump 1.0. We talked about the resolution really did three things: kind of positive affirmation and direction that the county is accessible for everyone, regardless of their paperwork with the government. That we have an equity commitment and recommitting to that as our approach as the county. And then the compliance with state law. Now, the resolution itself was more accentuated towards our sheriff's office and our judicial system, but as we've seen, this 2.0 version of Trump, it's expanded and it's pressing on pretty much all the county departments, and that's why you'll see in the resolution itself speaks to a bit wider scope there. Next slide. So exactly a month ago, November 18th, we came here to you. We did a board briefing, presentation and discussion. We got positive support to further this work and an interest in greater detail on the policy options. So looking at how viable are some of these specific options, what's the legal extent, especially the parking lots piece was on where could we put signage or deem areas unrestricted or restricted. What's the equity impact? So how are we meeting that in community? And then how can we provide flexibility with administering existing contracts? You'll see in the resolution today some of this stuff is immediately accomplished or directed, and other things around the implementation viability and legal extent. There's basically a time clock put in the resolution to then come back to you all in February or March with an ordinance, and then a report out from our chief financial officer and our COO on where we landed on some of that policy direction and those initiatives. And so between I've had commitment from the COO's office and with each one of your offices to be involved in that review process as it comes back to you for further action this spring. Next slide. I'll just briefly highlight, we on Monday evening, just thanks to the 80+ people that showed up to the town hall and over an hour and a half of testimony there. Thanks to this excellent individual to my left over here and the approach of the team on getting 5 different language breakout groups, sign language, live captioning. So I think a lot of the just excellent amount of input, and a lot of it kind of, again, captured and informed what we're doing today. Salome, do you want to share anything, your impressions on Monday?
Yes, and so Chair and Commissioners, on that Monday, we did have over 80 folks. In total, we had about 97 people participate in the town hall. At our peak, about 87 were actively listening live. In that time frame, we did have interpreters going simultaneously, so folks of different language origins could access the information, be able to provide testimony, and provide feedback. After that town hall meeting, there was a message sent out to participants, recapping what occurred, sending them a recording of the video, and asking them for further input, in which we received about 24 different comments post the town hall.
Excellent. Let's go next slide. So further engagement that's happened, like Commissioner Singleton spoke to their office since February and really kind of ramped up here in the last few months. Ongoing engagement with immigrant and refugee staff members, immigrant community members, organizations that serve immigrants. Had the, with the SNAP and the food authorization from the board here in late October, an emergency operations center set up. They're meeting bi-weekly now still, and in the resolution it asks for that to continue with community liaisons for PERC and others like DCHS here within the county to make sure that's ongoing. A couple of the major key themes we heard was please coordinate with other governments who have done engagement work already, so the same groups don't have to show up to Multnomah County, City of Portland, Hillsborough, Washington County, and we've been doing a lot of that back-end work as well. So the resolution that you see here today is very much informed by the great amount of input community gave to our friends across the river at Portland City Council, and also been connecting with Woodburn and Hillsborough and Washington County and Beaverton as they do this work as well. And then the second piece there is because people are afraid to leave their homes or because their main source of income has been taken, that the existing contracts that the county has with providers, that there's flexibility and thinking about kind of different ways of either spending resources or holding people accountable to what's the metrics that are in their contracts. And so you'll see we address that here today, partly through the resolution and then partly through R3, the funding action. That'll be before you after this. Next slide, unless you wanted to say something.
I will just add on the engagement piece, it was really important to Garrett and I's work that we center the folks with lived experience when it came to what was needed and what was being asked for. As some of you may know, I have had a sibling taken by ICE at a point in my life, and I remember what that did to my family and to his family that was just starting, and making sure that no matter what kind of impact folks had during this regime, that we were able to respond in a way that they could see that they felt heard and that they felt respected in.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and it's perfect to this slide because this is one of the main things we heard in now our third talk with our a wonderful county immigrant and refugee employee resource group. They told us first, like, be sure that there's a cost to doing nothing. That it'll weaken trust between county employees and the county, knowing we need to do what we can. There's certain legal limitations that we have, but we have to respond to this moment. And that there, regardless of this, but there will still be continued disruption to county employees and services, and partly people not leaving their homes or being taken. Next slide. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Salome to walk us through the resolution pieces, and I'll clean up with the next steps.
So the resolution, in terms of its findings, we culminated what we heard in comments and made sure that each of the comments that we heard was reflected in the resolution as best as we could. And so with the resolution, the findings we recognized were that the core Multnomah values and commitment to honoring and supporting immigrant refugees, explicitly naming that the xenophobic and racist approach by the federal immigration enforcement is taking and its impacts to community, making sure that we noted that the policy and legislative history at the county and the state level to show that we are in alignment with state sanctuary policies, the recent actions in supporting and building up to this resolution to show people that we are documenting that their input was taken into account and that we used it. Next slide. And we further resolved to affirm and strengthen our commitment to equity and respect, support the work of the government relations team to do advocacy for civil rights and public safety protections. And I will note with this one, was made very real by the fact that our director, Stacey Cowan, heard comments from our town hall and amended our government, our state legislative agenda to reflect the importance of the work. And we also recognize the work of our Emergency Operations Center and support continued coordination, not just between internally in departments, but also with other jurisdictions, with folks with lived experience and providers who are trying to meet the demand. Next slide, please. We also further resolve to support the chair and the CFO in working with existing contractor providers to promote flexibility in contracts as needs have changed within community. Receive a report from our Chief Operations Officer to the board on actions that the county can take to ensure that people we serve have access to county services, whether they be obligatory or people personally opting in. And receive a report from the COO to the board on actions the county can take to support employee needs. This was something that was very fundamental to our work because we wanted to make sure that as we are trying to show community that we are supporting them, we want to make sure that our own immigrant and refugees that work for the county also feel supported by the county as an employer. And lastly, not least but not last, next slide, please. We outlined for an ordinance to be prepared and brought before the board as a draft by February 25th to address these specific topic areas. This is where you're going to see the prohibition on the use of funds for immigration enforcement, prohibit assisting federal immigration law enforcement, clarifying steps in detainment and custody holds, clarifying restricted access areas and to place signage for resources, clarify how data is being used, stored, and how it is being shared, if it is being shared at all, and routine updated training on sanctuary status, rights, and protections. This, the reason for the ordinance coming at a later date is because we wanted to respect that many of the asks that were given to us were things that we had to public notice to the employee unions and wanted to make sure that we were giving the unions notice, we're working with them and making sure that we are getting things the way that they were intended, and for things that we cannot eliminate in terms of barriers, that we try our best to mitigate them or be aware of their existence.
Right, and last slide, I'll just do our final cleanup here because Salome, the resolve actions really kind of lay out the next steps, but continued work with county administration to vet and find those policy options. You have those written reports that are coming back to the board and the meetings that would be scheduled, and we'd be working with all the commissioner offices on that. And then what's coming up next is the budget modification to get the money out the door immediately to address those immediate needs. And so if approved, implement the funding approach. We'll talk more about that a second there. But then the contract flexibility piece with the chief financial officer between now and then February as well would occur. So with that, that's our presentation.
Thank you so much. That was a really thorough presentation of what's happened, what this action today is about, and what we have still to come. So thank you so much again for all of the work on this. I know we have several people signed up for public testimony on this item. So let's go ahead and invite folks forward. And I know we have several elected officials who are here today. I want to thank all of them for taking the time to make it here. I believe we're going to be starting the first panel with those folks.
Yeah, I'm going to call people up four at a time. First up, we have President Elena Pirtle-Guiney, Andre Miller, Representative Lamar Wise, and Councilor Samir Kanal.
And then do we have Councilor Dunphy coming up as well?
Yeah, Councilor Dunphy, you can come on down as well.
Come on down. Stacy Bork in my office is wearing her game show host jacket today, so if we need to invite folks down there. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. Are you guys deciding who wants to go first? Yeah. Where? Good morning. Just hit the button on the mic. Oh. There you go.
Sorry, it's my first time here. Thank y'all. Chair and commissioners, I am State Representative Lamar Wise. I represent communities in Southeast Portland within Multnomah County. People are scared. Families are changing how they move through the world. Parents are afraid to take their children to school, to visit health clinics, or to show up in public spaces that should be safe. This fear is not abstract. It is already shaping behavior and cutting people off from services that are essential. to individuals and communities' well-being. That fear also carries real costs. When people avoid care, housing support, or food assistance, or show up in public, or food assistance, or show up in public spaces that should be safe, we end up paying that cost in a variety of different ways. The county ends up paying later in emergency services. It also ensures that we see the worst of the system start to break down. And so I support this resolution for a few different reasons. I strongly support this resolution because it reaffirms our Multnomah County's sanctuary status. Our community needs more than ever words and action. This resolution makes clear that our government is focused on what we can do to protect the dignity, safety, equity, and access to services and our residents, regardless of immigration status, and to reject xenophobia, intimidation, and the erosion of due process. I also want to acknowledge the accompanying budget action. The proposed $250,000 one-time allocation from general fund contingency is an important step in making sure that these communities are backed by real resources. By investing in direct assistance, culturally specific outreach, and legal services, the county is responding to needs identified through the Emergency Operations Center and the Liaison Program. I appreciate this resolution recognizes sanctuary is not just a symbol, it is what we have the responsibility to do. It emphasizes the role of government in that we should play a coordinating role, navigate bureaucracy, and equipping communities with practical tools. Through the EOC, community liaisons, community assistance, and translation services, the county can turn policy into action that directly benefits the community. I want to emphasize 3 points informed directly by what we've heard from our immigrant and refugee advocates. This work cannot be delayed any further, and state of emergency timelines must reflect that urgency. First, clarity matters. People need to know in plain language where they are protected and what their rights are. Confusion breeds fear, and fear keeps people from accessing services, especially moments heightened by uncertainty. Second, visibility matters. Signage, consistent messaging, and employee training are frontline tools that communicate safety and dignity the moment someone walks into a county building. These are actions that can and should happen now. Third, accountability matters. Public reporting and transparency ensure that commitments are met on time and that resources are deployed with urgency and intention. Local government cannot fix a broken federal immigration system alone, but when immigrant and refugee communities tell us delay causes harm, we have the responsibility to listen. So I thank you, and again, I urge support for this resolution.
Thank you so much, Representative. Really great to have you here, especially the first time in our boardroom. Thank you for testifying today. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Vega Peterson, commissioners, thank you so much for having me. It is so good to be in your space today. I know we sometimes welcome you to ours. My name is Ilana Pirtle-Guinea. I'm a Portland City Councilor from District 2, representing North and much of Northeast Portland, and the President of the Portland City Council. I'm here today to testify in support of the resolution reaffirming the county's sanctuary status and the budget modification allocating general contingency funds to address impacts of federal policies and actions in our area that the chair and Commissioner Singleton, my commissioner, have brought forward. In recent months, we have seen a disturbing increase of ICE activity in our communities. This activity, which is inhumane and devastating, has impacted too many of our families, our neighborhoods, our local businesses, and our schools. Just last week in my district, we saw the use of chemical munitions in a neighborhood on residential streets while parents were dropping their kids off at school. Not across the neighborhood, outside of the school. A father was taken into custody while his 2 teenage children sat in the car. I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. This is my community. And to see this playing out in our community is not only heartbreaking and infuriating, but it's completely unacceptable. And yet, we know there are so many limitations to what we can do. But as elected leaders, it's incumbent upon us to use the tools that we do have to stand up for our community in the face of a federal administration that is acting in opposition to the principles that not only our community holds dear, but that our country was founded upon. The actions you are taking today complement the work we've done at the city, that our partners are doing at the state, and continue to move our community in the right direction. And we thank you for that. As we navigate this moment, we also know that the providers who are already trusted by communities that don't have a good reason to trust us right now are the best front line to help support our community members. And providing legal services, case management, and sometimes just clear information to our targeted neighbor through organizations that they already trust is so critical. I thank you for taking that step. It doesn't go unnoticed, not in our community, not by your fellow elected leaders, how important this is, and I want you to know that we all have your backs. We know that it's not easy, but when we work together, we can change the tide. So I'm very hopeful that this resolution and budget modification pass today and continue to build upon the work that our entire community is doing to keep our neighbors safe. Thank you, and I urge your vote in support.
Thank you so much, President. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Jamie Dunphy. I have the honor of serving as a Portland City Councilor representing District 1, which is East Portland. I would like to voice my strong support for the declaration of the state of emergency, the proposal to strengthen your sanctuary policy as the City Council recently did, and the proposal to reallocate funds in support of our immigrant and refugee neighbors affected by recent federal policies and actions. My district of East Portland has the greatest number of residents who were born outside of the United States out of all council districts. The actions you are considering today will directly help serve the needs of my constituents and help promote security and predictability for the families across Multnomah County. At a time of unprecedented uncertainty, it's important that all of our public employees have ample resources and training to tackle incidents that may arise during our work hours. And furthermore, our constituents deserve streamlined detainment and notification processes to help bring consistency and security to a time of massive upheavals in standard protocol. Our community is in desperate need of help, and the public trust in institutions has been severely injured over the past year. By redirecting resources to the communities that are most directly under attack, we can begin to repair some of the damage caused to families harmed by recent enforcement action in our region. As you heard, my colleagues and I on the Portland City Council are doing what we can to help in the fight against a tyrannical federal government, and we proudly stand with you today. Thank you for your actions on this.
Thank you very much. And I believe we have Councilor Canal virtually.
Councillor Canal, you can unmute and begin.
If Councilor Canal isn't ready to testify, why don't we go to the next panel and then we can come back.
Okay.
Thank you all very much for being here.
Next, we have Kayla Asakawa, Alex Riedlinger, Aaron Meechan, and Lightning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. You can go ahead and begin.
Good morning, Chair Vega Peterson and Commissioners. My name is Kayla Asakawa, and I am proud to serve my lifelong community as a legal assistant with EMO's SOAR Immigration Legal Services. Thank you for the opportunity Monday to share EMO's and SOAR's full support of this Commission's leadership, and both declaring a state of emergency to address the community impacts related to ICE, and in improving our sanctuary policies to support our Multnomah County neighbors. SOAR Legal has been providing immigration legal aid since the 1990s. Our Multnomah County office is on Halsey and 79th in District 2, but also right on the border of District 3. Each year between our Multnomah County and Washington County offices, we serve over 3,000 low-income immigrants from over 80 different countries. We serve survivors of trafficking, entire families whose kids attend our local schools, and the employees of Multnomah County businesses that keep our local economy strong. We have never seen it this bad. We are receiving over 100 calls every single day from the community. There is broken glass all over Multnomah County, from ice breaking car windows in school parking lots, outside of churches, and on job sites. Having competent, proven legal services protects our community from not just ICE injustices, but from fraudsters who every day drain the community of thousands of dollars while promising to help file immigration paperwork. As a longtime county contractor, EMO is at the ready to provide desperately needed services, including immigration legal services, know your rights trainings to keep families as safe as possible, family preparedness sessions, preparing contingency plans in place of ICE apprehension, supports to apply for and become U.S. citizens, and of course, solidarity. The community trusts EMO's SOARS program every day to provide these services to protect family from ICE abuses, as well as from rapidly changing federal policies. President Trump is stripping lawful status of thousands of our neighbors who came to the U.S. from Afghanistan, Ukraine, Cuba, 39 countries in total. Only this Monday did the Trump administration include 20 more countries to the travel ban. Our staff speak more than 10 different languages and are members of these communities. Many of those targeted by ICE and by the status-stripping executive orders have been here for decades, and they are now at risk. As a community, we have a responsibility to help our vulnerable neighbors. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing to protect our county and the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Alex Riedlinger. I'm here representing the Coalition of Communities of Color, and I'm a registered lobbyist and the child of immigrants. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and for your dedication to a safe and equitable county. The Coalition of Communities of Color strongly supports the county's commitment to equity as reaffirmed by the board's work to codify and refine sanctuary protections. Advancing civil rights and public safety is dependent on vital government relations work and continued coordination with the Equity and Outreach Commission. We also support any budget modification that allocates necessary funding to address the significant challenges and risks related to federal immigration enforcement. At CCC, we appreciate the county's engagement with immigrant staff, community members, and service organizations. Chair, your efforts to provide opportunities to discuss challenges and remove administrative barriers for vulnerable community populations has been very noble and well appreciated. Aggressive federal actions have created unprecedented challenges. To effectively address these impacts, evolving realities, and misinformation, community-based organizations need flexible funding. Current rigid funding models hinder effective service delivery. Funding flexibility is critical to meet rapidly changing conditions, reduce administrative overhead, and allow staff to quickly tailor support for unpredictable needs like legal aid, moving costs, food, and transportation. Passing this resolution will enable the Chair and CFO to implement flexibility for existing contracted providers. Budget modification can also expand service provision by funding new contracts and expanding existing rapid response services, client assistance, case management, and legal aid offered by contracted CBOs. Finally, the forthcoming sanctuary ordinance is a meaningful step that will enhance protections by exceeding state law. It will ensure county funds are not used for prohibited activities and will limit assistance to federal immigration enforcement. Clear procedures for detainment and custody holds, defined access areas, and mandated training will reinforce sanctuary status, leading to greater community safety and feelings of well-being. Again, thank you for your time, commitment, and opportunity to comment. We urge you to vote yes on this vital resolution and budget modification. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Tasia, can we check if Councilor Canal is available to give testimony?
He's having technical difficulties. He's going to try and call in.
Okay, thank you. Just let us know when they're ready.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super, No Justice, No Peace Lab. In this situation, I often wonder what Frederick Douglass would do. And one of the concerns I have is that I had relatives from New Bedford, Charles W. Morgan. So I have a kind of a clear understanding on safe places and traveling. But every time I hear this, I think to myself, who needs to live like this? And the reality is that speaking to President Trump is you accomplished what you wanted to do on the border. You built your wall. It's secure. You stated you were going to remove some very dangerous people. You've done that. You've accomplished this. You've already accomplished it. So put a pause on this. And I want you to think about, you want to win Nobel Peace Prize. Why don't you think about maybe being called a humanitarian? Put a pause on this. And why don't you set up a meeting with Pope Leo? Have a meeting with him. Sit across from him and let him tell you what he thinks is right, what he thinks needs to be done. These people that you're removing have been caught up in a system, a failed system by the politicians, and they are being victimized. They are suffering. Put a pause on this and have some discussions to stop the suffering. If you want to win the Nobel Peace Prize, if you continue going in the direction that you are, you will not win those prizes. There will be people that will stop you from winning these prizes. There will be people that will stop you from winning elections. Put a pause on this. Stop the suffering. Let the people come out of their homes. Let the people begin to live in the United States in a reasonable manner. It will not affect your overall elections in the future. A pathway to citizenship. Amnesty. You can take care of these people, President Trump, and you will be known as a humanitarian if you do. Put a pause on this.
Thank you.
We have Andre Miller virtually. Andre, you can unmute and begin. Hello, Andre. I'm going to unmute you or send a request. Can you hear me, Andre? I can see you, but I can't hear you.
They never play well together.
There should be a button at the bottom next to the video that says mute and unmute.
Can we see if they can call in, maybe, and just do it over the phone?
Yeah, I can get in touch with him, Andre. If you want to call in, I'm going to see if I can get you the instructions.
Okay, thank you, Tasia. Were there any other public testimonies?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everyone who signed up for testimony. We may have some folks come on during board comments or after board comments, just if we can work out some of these technical difficulties. I do want to open it up to the board for questions to Garrett or Salome, or any comments that you want to share on this. And we'll start with Commissioner Brim-Edwards.
I'm going to get that down after 2 years. I don't have any questions, and I'll have some comments after we go through the questions. But I'm going to take just a moment with just starting with some thanks. I want to thank the chair for issuing the recent emergency declaration, to Chair Vega Peterson and Commissioner Singleton and your staffs for bringing forward not just the resolution, but also some funds to go with it, which we know is absolutely critical. I want to thank the community members who either sent in testimony, showed up at the town hall, or showed up this morning, and also to our elected leaders from the city who came this morning to both demonstrate partnership with us and share their support. And then all the county staff who have worked either at the Emergency Operations Center, sending out daily updates, sort of the ongoing work just throughout the year, but also setting us up for this morning to take action. So I just want to start with thank yous, and I'll have some comments when we get to the end, but really appreciate the work that went into this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Singleton, do you have any comments or questions? Yeah, okay. Commissioner Moyer. Oh, I'm going he started for the first one, so now I'm in the second one.
Yeah, I echo the thanks for this work. I also don't really have questions. I feel like I wish we had so much more we could do. And I'm horrified by what is happening to our neighbors. I think something that is difficult for me, and I hope it is difficult for everyone, is the cruelty that seems to be involved. I don't think that this is a intellectual disagreement on national immigration policy. I don't think we're having intelligent conversations about the right way of opening opportunities to people who are interested in coming to the United States. We are, as a nation, showing the world our xenophobic cruelty toward a group of people who simply came to this country later than our families. You know, outside of the Native American population, we all have a story, not that far back, and yet we are acting as if this is a new phenomenon, when I think really what we're saying is this is a not white phenomenon. You know, I think one of our biggest roles is to care deeply about the future of our community and to protect our community. So obviously, I think supporting this is the right thing to do for moral reasons, but it is also clearly the right thing to do for economic reasons. Multnomah County has been incredibly fortunate to have population growth over the last decade, in no small part to international immigration. It has benefited our community tremendously. You know, when I think about demographic groups that punch above their weight class when it comes to engaging in our economy, it is immigrants. 17 to 18% of U.S. economic output is directly the result of immigrants' participation. 1 in 4 entrepreneurs in this country are immigrants. 46% of Fortune 500 companies in the United States were founded by immigrants, including Columbia Sportswear. So I think this is not just a moral conversation. This is an economic conversation. It's a common sense conversation. And I don't know to what degree we can possibly make our immigrant community feel at least safe within Multnomah County service doors. I certainly want them to, and I want our community to see the actions of our city council in Portland and the actions of Multnomah County as a strong rebuke and a strong commitment to all our neighbors. I think the cruelty to not understand the impact on families when you out of nowhere kidnap one of their relatives and the chaos that that causes and the fear. I think this is, you know, I so appreciate that we approach this from a position of trying to be actionable and not just a symbolic gesture, because I think the time for symbolic gestures has passed. And I believe actively supporting our neighbors in this unbelievably cruel attack is incredibly important. So I really, really thank the chair and Commissioner Singleton and their staffs for focusing on the concrete things that the county can actually do in our limited capacity to try to mitigate this. You know, I think everybody had a lot of conversations over the past couple weeks with nonprofits and community leaders and legal firms, and, you know, I think people don't understand how people who had legal status, who were going through the process like we say we want people to do, who were days away from being sworn in as citizens, are having their status revoked from them. I happen to have a significant Somali population in my district, so I specifically reached out to the Somali population. The federal government wants to remove their temporary protected status on January 16th, 2026. So they already have moved to remove protected temporary status from 17 countries, including South Sudan, you know, Honduras, El Salvador, Haiti, Venezuela. We are losing our compassion as a country. And so I am happy to be supporting this and grateful for the work of bringing this forward. And, you know, I hope to the degree that our immigrant community can distinguish between the federal government's actions and that of local government, I do hope that they feel that their community governments are happy that they have joined us, that we view them as members of our community, that their children are friends with our children or at our schools, work with us, and that they deserve equal protection as every other resident does in Multnomah County.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Commissioner Jones-Dixon? I'm sorry?
Just Councilor Canal just.
Oh, Councilor Canal, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for pointing that out, Commissioner. Please, we would invite you forward to provide testimony and appreciate you making it across the river. I know that there were some technical difficulties for virtual, so thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's not far, so happy to be here with you today. Good morning, I'm Samir Kanal. I'm a city councilor from District 2, which is North and Northeast Portland. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm here to testify in support of both actions that you hopefully will be taking today. I'm the son of immigrants myself. My parents came here from India, built a home in Portland, and planted roots. They had a child, me, in the district that I am now fortunate enough to represent, and their journey has shaped every aspect of my own as well. I've dedicated my life to human rights, to good governance, and to respect for the Constitution, and I'm excited to see so many people in local government sharing those commitments, but not everyone does. We all know about the federal government's attacks on immigrants, refugees, and asylum seekers, and we know the impacts that they have had in putting our communities at risk. I want to commend the chair and Commissioner Singleton for doing something about it and for writing clear policy that reflects community values. And I'll be asking this commission to vote yes unanimously, as the city of Portland did on the sanctuary city codification effort that I was fortunate enough to lead in October. The county's sanctuary policy addresses the critical needs of immigrant families, including food access and legal services. I'm especially pleased to see support for employees who are impacted by federal immigration enforcement. Employees were central to the passage of our sanctuary city codification. It's good to see the county honoring your employees' experiences as well. In light of recent threats to legal protections, including attacks on our schools, hospitals, and homes, this policy is crucial. We've seen violations of due process rights and federal rollbacks of protections guaranteed for everyone. There is a weight that you feel when you talk to community members, not only who are directly impacted, but who are in the neighborhoods like this as well. Last week, there was another instance of terrorizing families in St. John's in my district, which is also Commissioner Singleton's district. Mass kidnappers pulling parents into unmarked vehicles without plates and then deploying pepper balls in the street as well. And this is a direct violation of the values that I think Portlanders, Multnomah County residents share. Fortunately, we have a resilient community. We have a hopeful community, and I know that they will be more hopeful seeing the work that you are all doing and the work that is happening at the state and also at the city as well. We're going to find out who these people are by unmasking them, by verifying their identity, by enforcing the identification rules, and each of the steps that are taken by different local governments will be building another brick in our wall of defense here. I look forward to welcoming you back to our side of the river in January when we talk about that masking policy as well, which will be at the Community and Public Safety Committee. In closing, I think it's important to remember that people have fought and died for the rights that are now being taken away by the federal government, and families are currently being torn apart even as we speak. And I ask you to vote yes on this resolution to demonstrate that you're not just hearing the voices of those who have been speaking to you and to our side of the river as well, but acting upon them as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and really appreciate you, again, making the efforts to be over here so we could hear your testimony. All right, thank you so much. So Commissioner Jones-Sixton, any questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you. I do have one question, but I'll just start by saying thank you, Chair and Commissioner Singleton, for just your leadership, and Salome and Garrett for putting the things that we've said into words and into action. I just want to start by saying I never thought in a million years that I would have to have the talk with my 8-year-old son. And that talk happened 2 months ago when he asked me, Dad, what should I do? He goes to a Spanish immersion school. So again, this is action. So this is actionable, which I greatly appreciate. 2 months ago, I asked, how can the county respond when there's ICE enforcement? And I sat with our leadership team, and that's reflected here in item C. I just want to know, just like, what does that look like? Are we asking the COO to bring forward just what are we doing as far as the county is concerned? What will we see from item C in the resolution?
Yeah. I'll start, and Garrett, please add on. So, Commissioner, that's a great question. You're absolutely right. This work was really rooted in what can be actionable from the county, what can be actionable from county employees, and what is needed, and marrying those two things. What we see here from item C is that a lot of folks in community don't know what the county's current policy is, and that also includes county employees. And so there's very much so a a communication gap between what our values are, but what does that look like in person? And so with item C, we are going to be working with departments, program leads to understand and to help them clarify for employees in a way to where they can communicate that with the public, and in the way that the public can also understand what is expected of county employees, what the county as an entity is expected to do, and how it's supposed to carry itself, and then also around what happens when that fails. Because I think the other piece is that as great as a policy can be, it doesn't matter if no one knows what it is or know it exists. And the way that you build trust with a community is by having transparency and accountability. And so we are going to be working with the COO along with other departments to make sure that we are looking at this of what does this mean for you? What is the expectation for supervisors with their employees? What is the expectation for employees to the managers? But also making sure that in the other line item that we have around signage when it comes to the ordinance, that those are also printed for county employees to see, because we don't expect employees to just know once they are told once, but more so have those signs up so everyone has a clear understanding of what to expect, where they can go for supports, and kind of do that work of, if not us, then we will point you to who and how to get in touch with them in a direct fashion.
Got it.
And the only thing I'd add, just to really give you a picture of what the future will look like in February, is you'll have a draft ordinance. So of all this vetting work we've been doing, here's what could exist in county code going forward. And then you'll have a large report on those policy options. So what can we do today, or have we already done? What are ones that would take some FTE money, that type of thing, to accomplish? And are there any that there's just like impossible legal barriers or other action needed at the state or from other places to then implement and put in place? And so you'll have that's our way with this resolution of not losing any of the policy options we put up on the November 18th when we came to you all, but of you all being able to provide direction today to keep that system moving forward, and then come back to you for that discernment in the spring.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. And last, I just want to again say thank you to you both for your leadership, and also Sarah and team, Chris Foss and Gail, for the updates that you guys have been sending out weekly. That's extremely helpful, and to all the community members that have provided public testimony and reached out to all of the commissioners regarding their just their feedback, and to Clear Clinic and SOAR as well. Just thank you. It's been this is who we are, you know, as a county and as a region and as a state, and this reflects that. So I'm fully supportive. And again, we're one step closer to building America's favorite county and signaling that to the rest of the world. So thank you again. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Commissioner John Sixon. Commissioner Bram Edwards, are you ready to give your comments?
Sure. Thank you again for bringing this forward. So this is a especially true statement for District 3 in East Portland, but the immigrants and refugee communities are absolutely essential both to the fabric and the future of our county, and again, especially in District 3. Their immigrants and refugees are our friends, our neighbors, our caregivers, our business owners, entrepreneurs, workers, neighbors, parents, who contribute every day to our big, beautiful, diverse community. An attack on them is an attack on all of us. Strengthening our sanctuary policies is an affirmation, I believe, of our county values and previous county actions. We believe in dignity, fairness, and equal treatment under the law, and I believe this resolution today further affirms that. No one should be fearful to seek help when their family is at risk. They should be able to call 911. They should be able to report a crime. They should be able to access public services without fear or trauma. Our sanctuary policies are about sending a message about safety and trust, and that we're all in this together. When people are afraid to interact with local government, whether it's the county, the city, their local schools. And we're seeing that happen right now because of what the federal government is doing in terms of terrorizing people, that people are afraid to send their kids to public schools or to ask for help. And when that happens, public safety and community health suffers. So I loved the statement in the presentation, the cost of doing nothing, because sometimes that is the path of least resistance, to do nothing. And I'm proud that the county has chosen that we're looking at ways and all the different ways in which the county can stand with our community. We can't stand by as the federal government on a daily basis attacks our neighbors. Rather, today we have an opportunity to put our values into action and support our neighbors and our community, especially immigrants and refugees. I appreciate the invitation from Councillor Canal for us to go across the river in January. I think we need to continue to look at ways in which local jurisdictions, whether it's school districts, the city, the county, the state, can work together to create a fabric of support. So I've found that Multnomah County is strongest when we stand up for our values and when we stand up together, and we're doing that today. And I think we're sending a message today to immigrants and refugees that you belong here, you're part of our community, and we're going to stand with you. So thank you again to Commissioner Singleton and Chair Vega-Peterson and the staff that worked to bring this forward. I'm an enthusiastic yes.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Salome, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I actually did. I just wanted to note that, like as you mentioned, Chair, today there is a protest around a day without an immigrant. Obviously, I am working today, So I do want to mention that this date was particularly chosen because we wanted to send the message that when immigrants are not working, that we will work for them and pass this for them and their communities. I also want to take a moment to just acknowledge my father, who has been a tremendous support for me in my life. He survived a war for independence, to fight a colonial power in our home country. He's been through a civil war and survived almost 2 decades in a refugee camp to get here. And it is through his work that I know how to fight fascism, that I know how to fight authoritarianism and what that looks like. And so it is with great honor that I do this work in his name, and I'm happy that he's present to be here today.
Thank you so much, Salome. That was beautiful, and we appreciate and honor your father as well. Commissioner Singleton.
Oh, seriously?
I know.
Gosh, that was powerful. Again, thank you, colleagues. I think the words that I've heard today are exactly what community has been wanting to hear from us. And I've been saying since I got here on the dais the names of people who have been taken, the issues that are happening in not just my district, but throughout our community. And I just hope that we can, it sounds like we will be able to move this forward unanimously. I do want to just, as a reminder, with the ordinance coming forward, we will bring that for discussion to make sure that it reflects what everybody is wanting to see. And I appreciate everyone really seeing that this is about action. We've already done the symbols, now it's action time. So thank you for the work again, and I look forward to the vote on this and conversation on the budget modification.
Thank you so much. I just want to say, just very brief closing remarks. Again, just huge gratitude to Garrett and Salome and everyone who has been engaged in this process, but we would not be here today without you. I want to thank everyone who showed up for the town hall. I did want to address a couple things here. The Board of Commissioners is doing everything we can to meet the emergency of this moment with action, which has been noted here. And the language in the resolution and the future ordinance is what we can do within our control as the chair and the Board of County Commissioners. My hope is that my colleagues in the district attorneys and the sheriff's office are also looking at their policies to ensure that access to justice is possible without fear of immigration enforcement to the extent possible. We are going to hear about the county state legislative agenda later today, and I know that I want to thank our GR team for incorporating this issue within our agenda. I'm really proud today to stand with jurisdictions across Oregon, including the cities of Portland, Salem, Woodburn, and Hillsborough, and Washington County, who have recognized the harmful effects of the federal government's callous and heavy-handed approach to immigration enforcement and have taken action through declaring emergencies, strengthening local law, and directing funding to address impacts. I want our community and the county workforce to know that we are not going to back down and retreat from our values. We are going to continue to stand strong and support our neighbors and community, regardless of where anyone is from. I know that we can overcome the tyranny of these times, and the only way we can do that is together. So thank you all very much. Tasia, can we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Moyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Brim Edwards?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
Yes.
Chair Vega Peterson?
Yes, the resolution is adopted.
R3, budget modification number Chair-002-26, allocate funding from general fund contingency to address impacts of federal policies and actions.
A motion. Second. Commissioner Jones-Dixon moves, Commissioner Singleton seconds approval of R3. So up next, we have a corresponding board action to approve a budget modification for the appropriation of $250,000 of one-time only funding for human and legal services to respond to the impacts of federal policies and actions in the community. We have heard very clearly from our engagement with the community and partners that flexible resources are needed to support community members impacted by these actions, and to maximize the impacts in this time of fear, they must be provided by trusted, culturally specific community partners. To go into further specifics, I will pass it to Garrett and Salome.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Still Salome and still Garrett. We're here for the actual action part of this, and it is about the money. And so I will pass it to Garrett to start us off with what other local action has happened to set the stage for today. So next slide, please.
Okay, well, I was going to have a code name for this presentation, but I'm locked into Garrett now. Local action, like we've talked about or referenced before, we've stood up an emergency operations center that's meeting with a liaison program. This has been key when we've talked with community about trying to get consistency, school system, government, state, and that mix, like they don't know necessarily those differences. So on the back end, this has been a really important piece to stand up there. State, county, city provider calls, and then constituent outreach with local government partners, community organizations, and others. We have seen some direct funding allocated, $200,000 each from Hillsborough and Washington County towards a list of needs. In a second, I'm going to show you a slide of those different list of needs. That's actually a very similar list, if not the exact same, from Hillsborough. And we've taken that approach and heard that kind of cast wide net is really appreciated by folks and really meeting the needs that are there. And similarly, as the chair mentioned in her remarks, different emergency declarations and what that's able to do from a procurement side, from an employee side to help kind of coordinate and meet the need at the moment. Next slide.
So with this slide, talking about community needs, we again did our research in terms of what other local jurisdictions were doing, and one of the things that we wanted to make sure that happened with this budget modification was that the needs of community could be met regardless of how they ended up in a situation. So we kind of took the concept of no wrong door to help us really look at what the needs are. As we mentioned earlier in our presentation with the resolution, folks who are being taken by ICE might be major breadwinners members from their family. As Commissioner Moyer mentioned, there are folks who are losing their status and becoming undocumented in some cases. And we just want to make sure that it included the breadth of impact that it's have on community of how these funds could be spent. So some of the things that we mentioned here were legal services, housing payment assistance, service navigation and case management, cell phone or internet access, childcare, healthcare services, including mental health, and utility bill assistance. These are just some of the items that are impacted through immigration enforcement. As we know with what is known as the Big Beautiful Bill, there are folks who are going to be losing SNAP benefits and their eligibility for SNAP because of the new requirements, and we expect other policy items to happen in the same manner. And so we just want to make sure that we could make the funds as flexible as possible to meet the needs that a particular family may have.
All right, next slide. So the funding action of the $250,000, $175,000 of that would go to existing providers for client assistant resources and legal services for impacted families. That's partly learning from the SNAP approach we had with county administration, that if you have an existing contract, we can get those dollars out the door quicker. So that would, if you approve this today, that money would start to flow with expedient nature. And then as far as early 2026, to help pick up people who don't have current contracts with the county, we'd set up a $75K would go towards basically meeting those groups, underserved culturally specific groups, and to increase our reach and impact of county partnerships serving community. So the thought today was to have that as a sort of a mini grant, $5,000 to $10,000 program that could be set up and then quickly appropriated and out the door. And then on where this money is coming from is from general fund contingency. And so that would reduce that from 1.1 million to 890,000 with the 250K coming out with this action. Anything you wanted to add on that?
I just wanted to highlight that the county does provide, does have current contracts with a lot of legal service providers as well as assistance providers, and so that's why we are, as Commissioner Singleton likes to say, leveraging and utilizing existing contracts to make sure that we can get the dollars out as quickly as possible so they can get to the families who need access and relief now.
Okay. And so next slide. So next steps, if you approve this today, we'll take those with county administration, the lessons learned from the SNAP funding action and implementation to get this money out the door. The funding for existing contractors would move quickly, no later than early 2026. That $75K for people who aren't contracted would be launched in 2026. And then our chief financial officer would continue working directly with departments to identify methods to provide greater flexibility within existing contracts. And also, I would still get to work with this wonderful person to my left who, in a meeting last Friday, jumped from speaking Spanish in the next meeting to speaking Russian to she's so talented. So that would also occur. We'd be continuing to work together. All right, with that, I believe that's our presentation.
Thank you so much again for really a great presentation on this, on these items. We do have several people signed up for public testimony, so please, if you want to take a seat behind you, and then we'll bring you up for any questions from the board on this.
We're going to start with Andre Miller, who's joining via phone. Andre, you can go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Apologies about the technical difficulties earlier. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Andre Miller. I serve as Vice Chair of the Multnomah County Democratic Party, Vice Chair of the Democratic Party of Oregon's Black Caucus, and Chief of Staff for Councilor Angelita Murillo in the City of Portland. I am here today in my role as Vice Chair for Multnomah County Democrats. The Multnomah County Democratic Party stands firmly with immigrants and refugees and is in full support of this resolution. Chair, thank you for recognizing this moment as an emergency, and thank you and Commissioner Singleton for bringing forward this resolution, and to Salome and Garrett who worked on this. These actions matter, and they send a clear signal that leadership is willing to meet the urgency of this moment. Families in our community are being terrorized, living in constant fear of being kidnapped and disappeared, creating trauma that will echo for generations. As a City of Portland employee and a Gresham resident, I have seen firsthand and heard these stories, and they are real, urgent, and devastating. We're witnessing neighboring jurisdictions and cities across the country take bold, decisive action. This is your moment to do the same. How will you explain your choices to your children and grandchildren? What will be your response when you are asked, what did you do when your community needed you the most? Your constituents are watching closely. They are watching how you will respond to this administration's federal overreach. They will remember who stood firm and who hesitated. They will remember the arguments made for and against action. They will remember any attempts to water down protections, and they will remember how you decided to vote. As a leader within the local Democratic Party, I want to be equally clear. We support candidates who align with our values, and we would not support candidates that do not align with our values. This is a moment that will last longer than today. We also need to confront a difficult reality. Promises have been made before and broken. Moving forward cannot rely on verbal assurance alone. We need protections that codify legislation and policy. We need commitments that are clearly documented in writing. The community needs these funds, and the need is diverse. Your response must reflect that reality with respect, urgency, and scale. We're asking the county to be bold and move the resolution forward as originally written with the policy options that were recommended for the board to support. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, next up, we have Lawrence Miller, Dan Hagan, Simone Crow, and Joanna Molina, who will need a Spanish translator. So if one of the translators can come down to the presenter table.
Hi, good morning. I think we had Lawrence Miller signed up first.
Yes.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to give comment. My name for the record is Lawrence Miller, he and him. I'm a Multnomah County resident. I sent you written testimony a few days ago communicating some stories from people in my community of St. John's who've been directly harmed by ICE raids. I'm really upset that my neighbors are disappearing, and I shudder to think which of them could be next. I'm here to tell you I completely support the use of county resources and my tax dollars to strengthen our sanctuary status and help people pay for immigration-related legal services and other assistance. The measures that I've heard described in your briefings on this topic before make a lot of sense to me. We need people who are in a position to do so, to say no when federal agents try to flagrantly and illegally abuse people and deny them their rights. The funds that you're considering to pay for legal services are absolutely critical in this effort. The dozens of news reports and first-person accounts of ICE raids that I've collected from my community paint a picture of a system that is designed to make people disappear. When a person is taken by ICE, if someone doesn't very quickly start to demand updates and arrange a visitation, a detained person will often be transferred to an out-of-state facility where it is much harder to advocate for them. People who have been wrongly detained by ICE and later released report that ICE agents refuse or disregard people's attempts to identify themselves, even resorting to confiscating and discarding personal identity documents. It is not acceptable that anyone should be disappeared in this manner, but it is happening. I think these funds can help stop that, because if every detained person had an advocate calling the detention centers, checking their status, making appointments, we could stop a lot of illegal and irreversible harm being done to detained people. Some people have been wrongly detained, have the right to stay, and intend to assert their rights. Others may know that they don't have legal basis to remain in the United States and just want to be sent home as quickly and safely as possible. But actually, a lot of people don't know the full extent of their rights and their legal status. All of these people need legal representation in order to understand and assert their rights and receive correct justice. They all need representation in order to not be disappeared into indefinite detention. Without this help, many more people are going to be disappeared by a federal government that doesn't recognize the Constitution. But you can recognize the Constitution. You can help county residents assert their rights enshrined in the Constitution. Please pass this resolution, get the ordinance written, and approve the budget modification. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning. I think you're next, Dan.
Good morning. Good morning again, Chair Vega Peterson and Commissioners. My name is Dan Hagan, pronouns he, him, and I'm here today to speak in support of the budget modification, excuse me, which allocates funding from the general fund contingency to address the impacts of recent federal policies and actions. I want to be very clear, this item isn't abstract for me. I am personally impacted by these federal changes, and so are thousands of residents in this county. When federal funding is reduced or restricted, the consequences land immediately at the local level on people who rely on supportive housing, like myself, behavioral health services, like myself, and community-based care to remain stable, housed, and healthy. These are not optional services. They're the difference between prevention and full-on crisis. Supportive housing programs are already stretched thin. Behavioral health providers are struggling with caseloads and continuity of care. When federal policies shift without adequate replacement funding, counties are left holding the responsibility, often with no warning and no cushion. Without action, people lose housing, mental health needs go unmet, emergency rooms fill up, and costs ultimately rise for everyone. For me personally, these services are not just names and numbers on a slide. They are essential to my stability and well-being. For others, they are what keep families housed, prevent hospitalization, and reduce involvement with law enforcement and emergency systems. Cutting or delaying these services does not save us any money. It shifts costs to more expensive and more harmful outcomes. By approving this item, the board is sending a message that this county will not abandon its residents when higher levels of government fall short. We are choosing stability over crisis, prevention over emergency response, and people over politics. I urge you to approve the budget modification, Resolution 3, and ensure that supportive housing, behavioral health, and other critical services remain available to the people who need them, including me. Thank you for making the county's constituents proud that compassion isn't an option, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Chair Vega Peterson and Commissioners, my name is Simone Crow, and I live in North Portland. Thank you for having me today. The emergency funding budget modification before you and the sanctuary status resolution that you have just passed are the result of hard work of county staff like Salome and Garrett and many, if not all of you, and of course the community. And it's an incredible start that will make serious impacts in the lives of our immigrant neighbors. Thank you. And there is always more to do, especially in a country that continues to double down on overt racism, nativism, violence, and cruel militarization, imprisonment, and control, all for distraction and political and financial gain. Our federal government has allocated $28.7 billion this year, tripling their previous year's budget to fund detention centers and enforcement agents. We are 1 year into a 4-year administration. We are living in a culture of dangerous government actors and high surveillance. There are many things I can't say safely at this podium related to feeding immigrants' kids, work that I've been involved in since the increase of ICE presence in our community because of the fear that our very own government could learn something that could lead to a violent separation of those kids from their parents. It's not the end to this violence, and so I encourage all of us to continue doing what we can to help immigrants, and that they know that they're not forgotten just because they're trapped in their homes or sent to a prison hours away. Especially given that we are now in a state of emergency in Multnomah County, I appreciate this and the establishment of the Emergency Operations Center and hope that it will result in ongoing collaboration. Also, given that there's no designated office or specific immigrant lead position at the county, I encourage the county to establish a task force to protect county residents impacted by ICE in this time. It could include county, city, state, tribes, and local nonprofit and community leaders to address the ongoing and evolving issues.
The task force could take on needed programs to help immigrants, such as funding and deploying community health workers for immigrants, to connect them to resources and let them know that they have support from their local government. They could work on increasing access to mental health services, especially virtual appointments. It could help prevent immigrants from being evicted, having their electricity turned off, and ensuring that they have enough food in their fridges to feed their kids. The task force could even take steps to further control the immigration justice system within the county, working towards a just system where ICE has no need or right to be here. This is a matter of public safety and human rights, and right now our county residents aren't safe. But in this moment, I'm proud to be a Multnomah County resident, so thank you for responding to this crisis with the adequate level of leadership and action needed.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Joanna Molina Marcial, who is virtual. Let's see. Joanna, oh, there she is.
Joanna?
Sí. Hola, buenos días.
Buenos días.
Buenos días. Buenos días a la chair
Good morning, Chair.
Peterson y a los demás comisionados. Es un placer estar acá.
And all the commissioners, it's a pleasure to be here.
Aprecio la oportunidad.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Estoy presente hoy para compartirle historias de las personas
I am present here to share the story of the people
que han sido directamente afectadas.
that have been
Yo soy
directly affected.
Yo soy una de ellas.
I am one of them.
Y quiero también decirles por qué es importante que hayan tomado este paso.
I also want to say why it's important that you guys have taken this step
De mandar un mensaje claro
to send a clear message
a la comunidad inmigrante del condado de Multnomah,
to the immigrant community of this Multnomah County,
de que ellos son bienvenidos aquí y pertenecen.
that they are welcome here and they belong here.
Tenemos familias
We have
allá
families
afuera
out there
que la están pasando peor de lo que todos nosotros podemos imaginar.
that are having harder times that we can imagine.
Yo llevé una caja de comida a una familia que estaban cenando con la luz apagada.
I took a box of food to a family that were having dinner with the lights off.
Es una sobreviviente de violencia doméstica
It's a survival of domestic violence
con un hijo de 16 años que necesita cuidados 24/7.
with a 16-year-old child that needs special care.
Y al estar en la dirección de su abusador, vive con miedo de que vayan por ella y que su hijo muera.
And having the address of the abuser, she's afraid that they can give up with her.
Entonces ellos cenan con la luz apagada. En cuanto cae la noche, mantienen la luz apagada para que los agentes de inmigración piensen que no vive nadie ahí.
So that's what they eat with their lights off. When it gets dark, they eat with the lights off so the immigration agents will not think that no one lives there.
Esa es solo una familia. Mi primo fue también arrestado, estuvo más de un mes y ha
This is
pagado
on-
más de 20.
This is only one family. My cousin was also arrested. He was arrested for 1 month.
Y ha gastado más de $21,000. Es una familia que no hacen más de $19 por hora.
And he has spent $21,000, and it's a family that doesn't make more than $19.
Y él tenía aprobada su residencia, solamente estaba esperando por esa residencia.
And he already had his residency approved. He was only waiting for it.
Y así puedo contarles acerca de cientos de familias,
And that's how I can even tell you about hundreds of families,
porque esa es la realidad que estamos viviendo hoy.
because that's the reality that we are living today.
Quiero tomar esa oportunidad solamente para apelar a la humanidad de
I want
todos
to take
ustedes.
this opportunity to appeal to the humanity
y que hagan lo que esté en sus manos
and do what is in your hands
para ayudar a la comunidad inmigrante.
to help the immigrant community.
Porque no solo somos sus vecinos,
Because we're not just only your neighbors,
amigos de sus hijos.
we're friends of your children.
Somos seres humanos buscando un futuro mejor para nuestros hijos.
We're human beings looking for a better future for our children,
Y que enriquecemos las comunidades en donde vivimos,
that we enrich the communities that we lived in,
trayendo nuestra comida deliciosa,
bringing our delicious foods,
nuestra diversidad,
our diversity,
nuestra alegría por la vida
our happiness for life,
y nuestro deseo sincero de hacer de las comunidades donde vivimos comunidades prósperas,
and the desire to make the communities that we live to make a prosperous communities,
donde todos tenemos derecho
where we all have the rights to be happy
y vivir en paz,
and live in peace
con dignidad.
with dignity.
Gracias por hacer todos estos movimientos como
Thank you for doing all this work,
aclarar la declaración de la ley santuario,
to declare the sanctuary law,
quitarle las barreras para que se use la plata el dinero que está en este fondo de contingencia,
to remove the barriers to use this money that is in contingency money.
Les aseguro que esto va a ser una diferencia enorme en
I
la
assure
vida
you
de
that-
estas familias
I assure you that this will make a great difference in the lives of these families,
que solamente tener una despensa de comida que les cuesta $200
that only having the food that costs them about $200
puede significar la diferencia entre estar en sus casas
that can make the difference from
vivir en
being
la
at their
calle.
home or end up in the street.
Puede ser la diferencia de irse, de mandar a sus hijos a dormir con el estómago vacío o comer una comida digna.
It will make the difference of giving them children a dignified meal before they go to bed.
Time.
Pero sobre todo
But after all,
van a estar seguros de que ellos pertenecen aquí y que hay gente como ustedes, como nosotros, que nos preocupamos por ellos.
they'll feel
Gracias.
sure that they belong here, that there are people like you that are concerned about them.
Gracias. Muchas
Gracias.
gracias, Johanna, para sus palabras y todo de tu trabajo.
Gracias, Joana, por sus palabras y su trabajo.
Isha, thank you all.
Next, we have Diana Pocrell, Sherry Campbell, and Susan Tyndall.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Diana. I'm here today in strong support of the updated county sanctuary and funds. For my family, sanctuary is not an abstract policy. It is something we experience in the most literal sense. My families are survivors of labor trafficking by US-based employers. We were exploited by an abusive employer who used our immigration status as a tool of intimidation and control. We were paid not by wages, but with food rations, and lived in a single-car garage alongside 17 families and 32 children. Fear, silence, and survival shaped every part of our daily lives. We were not allowed to seek health care, instead had to tend to our wounds alone. If we spoke up, children went missing. When we came to Oregon, I was 10 years old. It was my first time going to school, and it was my first time riding a yellow school bus. In Monoma County, we found sanctuary. We lived in a homeless shelter, and here in the shelter is where we found safety, dignity, and the ability to access services, heal, and begin rebuilding our lives without fear of punishment or deportation. This county gave us dignity when it had been stripped from us elsewhere and when we were let down by so many. Today, as federal actions once again create fear and uncertainty for immigrant and mixed status families, that trauma resurfaces, not just for my family or for myself, but for thousands across our community. My uncle, who is a field worker, went missing for 3 weeks, sleeping in the fields, soiled with dirt, after ICE officers scouted the farm that he worked in. Our family did not know or hear or where he was, but my uncle was too afraid to stand up because ICE officers decided to use the field to make it their playing ground. My best friend's brother was shot in his back by an immigration officer, killing him when he reached to his back pocket to show his work authorization documents. Sanctuary policies are essential to ensuring people feel safe, seeking health care, reporting abuse, and trusting local government. I urge you to vote yes on item R3 and to continue affirming Multnomah County as a place of true sanctuary where safety, dignity, and community come first. For those in this room who have never experienced this, or who do not have a loved one, or might tell yourself, or when you watch it in the news, you tell yourself, these are just stories, they're not real. I want you to remember me and remember my face, and know that there are many children that I played with, that I've never seen them again. And now I'm afraid that there are many more children whose families are now being attacked that they might also be missing. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you so much, Diana, for sharing your story.
Hello, sorry. I should know better. Hello, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Sherry Campbell, and I use she, her pronouns. Diana called me this morning and asked me to share with you something I shared with her earlier this week. As a white woman, I have many friends and family members who've been targets of the current administration. I'm acutely aware of my privilege and have a feeling of helplessness, like I think so many other people. And I've frequently been reminded of a poem by Martin Niemöller, that most of us have heard, but it seems more relevant than ever today. First, they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. Thank you.
My name is Susan Tyndall, and I represent one of 75 clergy who were mobilized by Together Lab in June to show up daily to the courthouse and the ICE facility to provide a peaceful presence. During one of those trips where I was accompanying a father waiting to see if their family would return, he shared with me that his gratitude for us being there every day, and mentioned that we are one community, that we are there together, and to thank me and the people who I was with for showing up. Budgets are moral documents. They are a way to demonstrate with tangible ways what we prioritize as a county, what we prioritize as a county government. This modification would do exactly that, and I encourage your support, and am really grateful to hear the testimony offered today from you all and from the people beside me and who have testimony earlier. Thank you for showing up and for continuing this work, and by demonstrating with money the ways that we can show up for each other.
Thank you so much.
That's all for public testimony.
All right, thank you. So we'll go to the board if there are any questions around the budget modification, any comments. We'll start with Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you, Chair. I feel like you keep setting me up to talk after everybody makes me cry. I'm not going to repeat the comments I made for the resolution, but I wanted to just highlight some of the unique things about this budget modification. I'm proud that we very swiftly reach agreement amongst our two offices that this needs to be flexible dollars and that the language in the allocation is broad enough to be inclusive of the diversity of needs and situations in our community. While ICE activity in Multnomah County has increased, we saw that our immigrant and refugee communities were being attacked in multiple ways. So providing that flexibility is really critical for community members to be able to meet their needs. Seeing this budget modification come together the way it has is a reflection of expansive community engagement effort that was done to ensure that the voices of those who are most impacted are centered in how this funding is designed. These dollars could be used by the Ukrainian mother for rent after finding out her work visa was revoked, or the Guatemalan man whose car window was smashed and he had to pay for car repairs instead of his regular monthly bills, or a Somali family seeking legal services, or a trans Mexicana taken by ICE who lost her job during her detention. Despite these stories being so different, one thing remains the same. It's Multnomah County stepping up to put dollars on the table to keep our community together. I just want to give a brief shout out to North Portland and St. John's. I don't know if you all picked up how many people showed up here today for this. This is a community that has really shown up to stand up for our community members, and the work that is being done right now in North Portland in coordination with our, in coordination with our schools is so powerful, and I encourage you all to reach out to me so I can share more of that with you in hopes that you can stand something similar up in your districts as well. Lastly, I hope that my colleagues will join me in enthusiastically voting yes on this budget modification as it is written, knowing that it was born from the request of our impacted community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Moyer.
Yeah, I appreciate the flexibility. I think I've learned a lot over the past couple of weeks about the ways in which families are impacted, but also how important access to legal services is and what a huge difference that can make. Learning that only 3% of people who are detained without access to an attorney end up successfully being able to argue against their deportation. I know that every family's situations are different, and I am just incredibly grateful that we are prioritizing making resources available, because people cannot do this alone. The burden that this puts on families is more than they can bear. I'm sure we all wish that we had more resources, and certainly I am hopeful that the state can also become part of this effort as they look at their budget this coming February. But I am happy to support this. I look forward to engaging and making sure we're hearing from community and directing resources where it is most needed. So thank you, everyone, for your work on this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jones-Dixon.
Yep, thank you again for just bringing this forward. Ditto to what my colleagues have said so far. And to your point, Commissioner Singleton, the funding is great, but we have a lot of social capital as well. So it's incumbent on us to create that space. I don't have any. I'm fully supportive of the funds, and thank you for just fleshing out how can we make it extremely flexible, specifically around food and just wraparound services. So, like I said, it's all encompassing.
Thank you, Commissioner Berman-Edwards.
Thanks for everyone who showed up and shared this story and what this is going to mean to me. It's really very, very, very powerful. Question on, this is more the mechanics on, there's the 175 and then there's 75. And the 175 is for sort of organizations that already have contracts. What's the process if people were listening today or find out about that set of dollars, what would the process be for people to access? I'm assuming we're wanting to get this out the door right away so that the resources get into the community.
Yeah, the process for how folks can access the $75,000 that is for folks who are not holding contracts currently with the county is going to be one that we are going to reach out to as many organizations as we can. We also have the federal impacts page on the county website that is now live that we're going to point people to see updates and to look for resources and such. Garrett and I have made a lot of great contacts and have a lot of great contacts with a lot of these orgs who are doing existing work that don't have contracts with the county. And so we'll be posting what the application will look like, what are the steps to take, but also lessons learned from our SNAP allocation will be that with posting those applications, we'll also tell the organizations what kind of documentation we need, if any, so that way they can prepare that while we're considering applications. So that way, if they are approved, they can get us what we need as a county immediately, and we can get the funds out the door as quickly as possible.
And I'd just say the two departments, Department of County DCM and Human Services, are going to be the implementers of those. So we could call them up if you're interested in more mechanics of the question of how that process would work.
Yeah, I just think it would be useful to have, I appreciate all the outreach to organizations. There will be, like, incoming, is it the place then that people would go on the website where there will be the application?
Do you want to have Eric Ariano maybe, or
I'm just looking,
who might?
Eric's not here. So we can,
Just where would we direct people?
yeah, so I think so there's the two tranches of money, right? So Salome did a good job, I think, at talking about like the 75,000. Those are for like the smaller contracts, or I'm sorry, the smaller organizations who have deep connections within community and are trusted by them, and that process is going to be set up. For the 175,000, that'll go to some internal work that's happening, and then those providers that have contracts with us, those organizations can reach out to their contract managers for if they're interested in accessing this part of those dollars.
Okay, so that's for the 175, and then the 75, there'll be information up on the website for the application process.
Yes.
Yep, and when we get that, we can send it over and do a big communication blast.
Awesome, great.
Thank you. All right. I think everyone has had a chance to speak to this. I just really...
One note before you start,
Oh,
Chair.
please go ahead.
My father wanted his Commissioner Singleton, to know that he had to leave because he works for the Mexican consulate. So he wanted to make sure that you knew that he was not participating to work, but he technically works for another country.
Thank you so much, all, again, just thank you two especially for all of the work on this. Thank you everyone who spoke up today, who has come to the town hall, who spoke today. The stories, as Commissioner Brim-Edwards said, are incredibly powerful, incredibly vulnerable to be able to share that things in such a public setting, but those words have power, and they just, I think, enforce how important is the work that we're doing today and will continue to do in the future. And I'm really proud of Multnomah County today and appreciate this board stepping forward in this way to do this work. So with that, can we have a roll call vote, Tisha?
Commissioner Moyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Brim-Edwards?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
Yes.
Chair Vega Peterson?
Yes, the budget modification is approved.
R4, approval of the 2026 state legislative agenda.
May I have a motion? So moved. Commissioner Singleton moves, Commissioner Brim-Edwards seconds, approval of R4. So I appreciate the government relations team for all of the work collaborating with my colleagues on the board, as well as experts throughout our county, to put together this draft legislative agenda. We are the largest county in Oregon by population, and the needs that we have are vast when it comes to the relationship with the state. It's not an easy task to pull together all of the information, and then even harder to do the necessary work in Salem to ensure our programs and services are fully resourced so that we can do our jobs here in Multnomah County in service to our residents. On behalf of all of us who benefit from this work, which is everyone who lives and works in Multnomah County, thank you so much to our government relations team for your commitment to the work. And with that, I will turn it over to Stacey Cowan, our Director of Government Relations.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you so much. My name is Stacy Cowan. I use she and her pronouns. I'm the Director of Government Relations here at Multnomah County. Recognizing the time, I think Tom and I can be efficient and try to get you all still out on time today. So thank you so much for having us. Why don't I let Tom introduce himself?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Tom Powers. I use he and him pronouns, and the State and Regional Affairs Coordinator.
Great. Thank you so much. Next slide, please. So today we're going to walk through the role of government relations. We're going to talk about some important dates for session. We'll discuss some of the dynamics that are at play, and then we'll walk through the county's priorities for the 40-day legislative session coming up. Next slide, please. So a little bit about our role. We work really closely with your offices, with departments, all year long, but especially leading up to session to identify what we should be prioritizing with legislators. We also work to balance all of that with what the budget realities are in Salem and also sort of what we think is possible in a given session. We meet with legislators and partners leading up to session so that we have a good sense of what others are going to be working on. And then during session, Tom and I will be in Salem every day. We monitor hearings, we meet with legislators, with other stakeholders, and then importantly, we also support each of you as we have you in Salem advocating on behalf of the county. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Tom. And next slide, please.
Thank you, Stacy. So we're coming up on a year with 4 digits ending in an even number. So it's a short session this year in 2026, about 7 weeks away. So here are some of the key dates that are coming up. So the bill introduction deadline is the first one I wanted to mention. That is on Friday, January 16th. That is the date by which legislators and committees must introduce their bills to the process. So about 2 weeks for those bills to be processed and introduced into the session when it starts on February 2nd. February 2nd is a Monday. That kicks off the 35-day legislative session. We look to see the revenue forecast just a couple days after session kicks off on Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. That will be the forecast upon which the state budget must be balanced by the end of that 35-day session. And finally, the deadline for legislators to conclude their work in the short session will be March 9th, 2026. So that's about 5 weeks for the legislature to do their work. They can do it sooner than that, so they can adjourn before March 9th if the work is completed, but if it is not completed by March 9th, the session will just end. Finally, the county will host a legislative breakfast with the Board of Commissioners, other county electeds, as well as our legislative delegation. It will be here at the Multnomah Building, and that is coming up on Wednesday, January 21st, 2026. Next slide, please. So a little bit about the makeup of the state legislature and the landscape as we come into 2026. The makeup of the legislature is essentially the same as the 2025 legislative session. Slight changes, new Republican leadership is in place, and there's one additional Democrat in the House of Representatives. But otherwise, we're dealing with mostly the same folks. The state budget will be the dominant topic for this legislative session. It's the centerpiece. Legislators are going to have to identify budget reductions to balance the budget due to the impacts of H.R. 1 at the federal level. Revenue forecasts this year in August and November showed that the state's ending fund balance was in the red. It had moved to a negative position. So as a result, budget writers asked state agencies to prepare reduction options of 2.5% and 5% respectively, as well as a list of new programs since 2020. So we'll know exactly what kind of position the budget is in for the short session on February 4th with that most recent revenue forecast at the time. And it's worth noting that the state does have 2 reserve funds. These are funds that will require a set of economic conditions to be met in order for legislators to access those funds and use them for general fund purposes. So we'll see, whether those conditions are met and if legislators choose to use those resources. Next slide, please. So potential issues coming up in the short session. Yes, the state budget, very big issue. It's pretty much the issue through which all other issues will be considered. But there are a host of issues that have persisted and will continue to persist despite the state budget and despite the enactment of H.R. 1. And, you know, those are the same issues that you'll see throughout our legislative agenda that's proposed today: the housing affordability and homelessness response, behavioral health, public safety, economic development, cost of living, infrastructure, and moving forward this year is really the economic development issue. I think that's been a focus of a lot of institutions looking ahead to the 2026 legislative session. So I'll turn it back over to Stacy.
Thank you, Tom. Next slide, please. So many times local government is a bellwether for how folks are being impacted by policy decisions at all levels of government. What we're starting to see in Multnomah County is that that impact is actually greater than the sum of its parts. The cumulative impact on our community from federal instability plus statewide budget cuts plus the local constraints is really leading to worse disparities and deepening inequities. I think that we play a really important role in communicating that impact to our state partners. Next slide, please. So some of the central themes that you'll see showing up in our legislative priorities for session, again, as Tom mentioned, really is around the budget. So coming out of the last session where we saw the legislature determine the budget for 25-27 biennium, and then as we started to see and understand the impacts of H.R. 1 from the federal level, it really became clear the legislature was going to need to make further reductions to maintain a balanced state budget. As we look ahead to session, some of those central themes for the county's agenda really include protecting core safety net services as much as possible and avoiding disproportionate cuts to human services in the homelessness system, which unfortunately tends to be what we see first. We want to see a balanced approach to cuts where needed and a strategic use of reserves, and absolutely avoiding cost shifting to local governments. And finally, a focus on preserving upstream funding where possible. What we're hearing from legislative budget leaders at the state level is that the impacts from H.R. 1 are going to be likely felt over many years, potentially up to 6 years. So we really have to approach this session thinking and planning for the long term. Unfortunately, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. Next slide, please. So we've identified 6 categories for county priorities this session. First and foremost, to protect funding for homelessness response, including rent assistance, eviction prevention, transitional recovery housing, and shelter capacity. So Oregon Housing and Community Services is the primary steward of state rent assistance, eviction prevention programs, shelter funding, and behavioral health adjacent housing supports. OHCS submitted reductions tied to rental assistance, shelter, and other housing programs, and homelessness funding, unfortunately, is exposed to cuts based on those reduction scenarios submitted by the agency. And of course, as you all well know, cuts to the state shelter system and rent assistance is going to put immediate pressure on county homelessness services and local shelter capacity. The second item that we have listed is prioritizing behavioral health and treatment services, including substance use disorder treatment and community-based mental health treatment programs. So the Oregon Health Authority is going to be where we see cuts or policy changes for this item. The agency reduction list does show potential reductions in Medicaid-related assistance, changes to CCO quality incentive payments, and SUD carryover funding, placing these items at risk for reduction. And then additionally, we're going to work with our legislative partners to hold state agencies accountable to federal law as it relates to individuals with severe, persistent mental illness who qualify for Medicaid long-term care. This would free up critical SHS resources to serve more people experiencing homelessness by funding support services and case management. And then the third bullet we have here is around safeguarding community corrections and specialty court funding. This is going to show up in 2 state agency budgets, the Department of Corrections and Oregon Judicial Department. The DOC reduction list explicitly calls out community corrections, which would directly threaten probation, parole, and reentry services. And again, as you know, community correction cuts would reduce state funding that counties rely on for supervision, housing referrals, treatment placements, and reentry casework. Next slide, please.
So we've got 3 more bullets here for our legislative priorities. We're going to start this slide with economic development. This is really about finding ways to partner with other jurisdictions and organizations, and economic development could take a lot of different forms. It could show up in a lot of different ways in this session and beyond. But I think it could look like workforce training, small business support, technology support, and development, while also looking to back efforts that would expand childcare access, that would maintain funding for programs like OXU Extension that help with our natural resource industries, with food security and urban-rural connections. Then I want to move to the second bullet here, which is long been a topic of our legislative agendas. Usually it's been a smaller point around defending local authority and upholding local home rule, but this has really been expressed as a main tenet of the agenda rather than a smaller point, and that is because of what we saw last session. Numerous attempts and one signature attempt to undermine Multnomah County in particular's home rule authority with a preemption attempt. So we want to make sure that we're communicating with legislators, educating them about home rule, about the will of local determination, and ensuring that the state respects the county's home rule across the board. And then finally, you know, a lot of this meeting has already discussed this issue, but wanted to make sure that you all saw the inclusion of this item in the county's legislative agenda at the state level, increasing protections for immigrant and refugee community members. This is a place where government relations will collaborate with our state and local partners to increase protections for immigrant and refugee community members. As you've heard, the chair has declared the emergency. The board has recently just approved the 2 items today. And the legislative agenda is highlighting the importance of advocating for civil rights and public safety protections during this February legislative session. Next slide. So with all of those priorities stated, we wanted to make sure that the state and our partners at the legislature and in the governor's office know that the county stands ready to partner with them in this session to prevent harmful cuts to essential services, protect the frontline programs that keep Oregonians safe, housed, and stable, and work towards long-term solutions that strengthen stability, recovery, and opportunity. And to that end, I know Stacy and our team has worked to set up meetings and make sure that you all have a day which you can come down to Salem and advocate for the legislative agenda and for partnership with the state during the February legislative session. And I'll turn it back over to Stacy.
Yeah, I think, next slide, please. I think that's it. Happy to answer questions, happy to entertain comments, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate all of the work that went into this presentation and putting this agenda together for the short session. Tasia, do we have any public testimony on this?
Yes, we have one person signed up.
Okay, so we'll bring you back in just a second for questions from the board.
Dan Hagan.
Good morning, Commissioners, for the 3rd time today. Thank you for allowing me to speak today again. I'm here to address the legislative discussions at the state level and to voice my strong support for the county's position on holding the state accountable. I'm a member of Central City Concerns Tenant Advisory Committee, and we plan on traveling to Salem to lobby in person for supportive housing in Multnomah County. Coordinating and communicating with the county could leverage county resources with input from lived experiences, magnifying the impact in Salem. I urge the board to continue to stand firm in its commitment to the residents of our county. Let us continue to advocate for a state policy that accepts its responsibility in keeping local services funded. I have a second quick comment on Resolution 2, a tangible suggestion, not a symbolic. I recommend the board to engage with Oregon's Department of Justice and encourage Attorney General Rayfield to aggressively pursue charges against any ICE agent, which he has already suggested. It's time, our country has entered a new phase, and it's time for states to step up and protect everyone, and in our case, Oregon. I want to thank you for making me proud of living in Multnomah County.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to the board for questions or any comments on our legislative agenda. We'll start with Commissioner Moyer.
What is your perspective about the depths of cuts we might be seeing to county services, where we're likely to see them, just really high level, and what, if any, areas are the legislature signaling they're interested in potentially investing in or trying to mitigate federal cuts to?
Yeah, thank you. Why don't I start, and then Tom can feel free to respond as well. So to the first part, I think when I look at the agenda item, when I think of the most risk that Multnomah County faces, I really think it's in those first two bullets. I think it's around homelessness response and it's around the behavioral health piece. I would say the worst case scenario that we've seen from the budget leaders is that the legislature may need to cut anywhere up to $900 million general fund. That does not assume a disconnect, that does not assume any use of a reserve fund, and that does not assume any other revenue. So again, that is a worst case scenario. But really, as Tom mentioned, it is dependent on the February 4th revenue forecast, and that will be what they budget to. And what we've clearly heard from legislative leaders is that it's very important that they don't budget to zero, that they want to be able to leave a little bit of room in the budget. So that would be what they're looking for. I think I answered all of the pieces of that. Yeah, thank you. Oh, and then I'm sorry, you did ask the piece around legislative leaders in terms of backfilling sort of the federal reduction. I think so much of the $900 million and the conversation that we heard from budget leaders really is in recognition of the impacts of H.R. 1, and they're really focused on the increased cost to the state. There's some really tremendous costs around the Medicaid changes as well as the SNAP changes, and that's really where they're focused. I would say additionally, we have heard pretty loud and clear as early as last session that the state legislature does not have the funding to be able to backfill all of the federal cuts. And that has been really clear from the outset, and they've been very clear that the state of Oregon just does not have the ability to mitigate all of those impacts. And so, I think that that's what we tried to reflect in the agenda, is really asking the legislature to take a balanced approach, recognizing that there is more coming, recognizing that we've got a long way to go to get through the impacts of H.R. 1, and asking for a strategic use of cuts where necessary, a strategic use of reserve funds, really trying to balance that, knowing that we've got a long road ahead.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones-Dickson.
Yeah, no, I don't have any additional questions. We met a few times over the last week. I do appreciate, I will say, under the economic development, or just the ask specifically around OSU, the extension program. I learned a month ago just the things that they do outside of just farming and ag, as far as STEM and outdoor programming. So I'm looking forward to just going down to Salem and sharing those stories to the legislator. I don't have any questions, additional questions. Thank you, or comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brehm-Edwards.
Thanks for the presentation and also the consultation with the commission on developing the agenda. It's going to be a tough session for sure. And I'm very supportive of everything on the agenda. I'm glad we were able to have the flexibility to embed specific language about support for immigrant and refugee communities and programs. Well, I'm supportive of everything. I just want to call out, I am glad that we have the word economic development within our legislative agenda. Just the economic headwinds we're facing, sometimes it could be like the county is about human services, or this is our focus area. But if we don't have a thriving economy, we don't then have the resources for our essential core services. So I'm glad to see that in the agenda, and we'll be looking for ways in which we can support different legislative actions or pieces of legislation that will both support the thriving economy and what that means for Multnomah County, individual Multnomah County households. I also thank you for having community corrections and treatment courts on there. We've made a good run at it in the past. I think we just need to continue to engage the legislature on that. So not only will I be happy to come down to the legislature and help on whatever designated day I get sent down there, but also just in advance having conversations before this legislative session starts with local area legislators when we're engaging them within the community. So thank you again, and I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for the work. I know it's a constant moving target right now with all the things going on, so just appreciate you adding that language that we heard uplifted at the town hall on Monday regarding us making sure that we're also advocating for protections of our immigrant and refugee communities. I feel compelled to say there was a line in the slides about folks, people of color, essentially, the disparities being increased when we're in these types of budget situations. And I think it's really critical that we call out and name, and I will in my lobby day, that we know this. It's not new information, so continuing to let it happen through how they're putting cuts forward is not acceptable. It's not like this is new information for us that people of color fare worse across all the axes of oppression, and then to continue to put it and implement things as if that knowledge isn't important to our decision making is really concerning. So I just wanted to name that and appreciate that you all called it out, but it feels like at some point, like somebody made a comment about gentrification the other day that made it sound like it's inevitable, and we actually know it exists, so we have tools to do things. Let's stop just talking about it as if things are inevitable. I do want to make sure, and I'd love to, as this all continues and you're working with our partners, I can't, it seems so powerful when we can show up in Salem in alignment with any of our other regional local governments, whether it's our cities, metro. So those spaces of alignment, I'll really want to know about, so we can show up and support priorities that they may have that also are for our community and vice versa. And I think particularly having been in Salem for a while, it's something that I know lands really well with the legislature. So I'll love to have some updates and just check-ins with you all as that progresses. Couple things I just wanted to highlight that have been, again, more recent things that bubbled up. I don't think we need to explicitly add it to our agenda, but I do think we need to be mindful of it, that there's potential around preschool for all issues coming up again in the legislature during short session. Also, I've heard of one, maybe more CEI hub-related bills that I think Commissioner Moyer and I will want to work on triangulating and making sure that, again, no preemptions on what we need to do locally move forward in the state legislature. So that will be something that I want to stay close with you all on as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Jones-Dixon, I know you had another comment.
Yeah, just around just community corrections or what have you, we'll be tracking that. I think I shared that with you in the meeting, and thank you for flagging just the priorities that the DOC put forward and that how that's not, I'll just say it's not in alignment with what we know the needs are. And then also, I think I mentioned just the focus on youth violence prevention work as well. So we'll be weaving that into the things that we'll be advocating, we'll be advocating for when we're in Salem. So thank you. Thank you again. Appreciate the framework.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. Yes, it is an actual framework. I will say, I guess two things. One, 35 days goes really quickly. And I mean, truly, it's like a blink of the eye, but it also feels like you're in this vortex when you're down in there. And so I really appreciate, I know that some of the commissioners already have their dates planned of when they're going to be going down there. I'm planning on going down like that first week of session because I think getting our voices in and making sure that people are legislators clearly understand what our priorities are early on in the session as this is happening is really important. I also think that, to your point, Commissioner Singleton, any actions that may be coming up around trying to do something around preschool for all, not without transparency, without a lot of discussion, we have to be ready to respond. I just want to, again, thank the community for the way that they stood up and pushed back against previous attempts to do that, and we are very aware of that. Risk again, but I do think that this session is an opportunity to work with our legislators to really understand the crises that we're facing in terms of budget at both the state and the local levels and how we can best work with those together. And I know we have already had the conversations with some of our other jurisdictions of how we can be doing that work together as well. So just appreciate that. I know you guys are going to be very, very busy both in the lead up to this and during session itself. And then I just want to say thanks for all the work in organizing the legislative breakfast on January 21st. That is always a really important way for us to really be in the same room with our legislators ahead of session to be talking about these priorities for the weeks ahead. So thanks for all the work. Thank you for the engagement, the partnership, really the way that you incorporated so much of the feedback and the priorities of this board in the legislative agenda. It is ambitious, but we know you guys can do it. So thank you so much. Tasia, can we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Moyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Brim Edwards?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones-Dixon?
Yes.
Chair Vega Peterson?
Aye. The legislative agenda is approved. All right, we are a little bit over, but now is the time where we have comments for non-agenda items from the board. I'll open it up to commissioners to see if anyone has anything to share.
I know I say always, but I feel like I said all the things during the sanctuary policies, so I will not have any today.
Yeah.
I will briefly remind you that I have finally shared the Medicaid letter for your sign-on. The delay was to meticulously document every claim that's in there, which it does do, so please feel free. There should be hyperlinks throughout it, but it is my hope to get that to the governor and agency heads and legislative leaders Monday morning, but I would love to hear back from your offices today or tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you for putting that letter together and for your team for all their work on it too. Any other? Go ahead.
I just want to acknowledge it's been a year since we've all been together, and I know we're about to go on our vacations and what have you, and just want to say I'm beyond proud and honored to serve with each and every single one of you. We all bring our own individual strengths and passions, and when you look at the body of work and the things that we've moved ahead together, I think we're punching above our weight, and to us staff as well, to all the public servants that choose to call Multnomah County home and serve. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and looking forward to next year.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
And we're making it America's greatest county. Yeah, I was going to build on that because this past year felt very different from my first year on the commission, and that's because of the individuals sitting at the dais. So I really want to thank people for the partnership, the transparency, the collaborative nature, even when we disagreed on issues that people brought to, you all brought to the work. So it feels good to end the year. I think if I look at what was accomplished this last year with different individuals on the commission leading in different ways, either on behalf of their districts or on behalf of the whole county, it was really different. And I think we moved a lot of work and built a great foundation for next year. Just as a heads up, I'm going to be circulating some just draft language, some concepts around deflection, just knowing that when we come back in January, the issue will be before us. So circulate that, and I know that everyone at the table has had some different ideas and put some on the table, and I think there's a lot of alignment in where we're going. And then just lastly, since this is our last meeting, wishing everybody a safe, joyous end of the year, and look forward to getting together back at the start of the year and working together.
Thank you so much. I just want to appreciate this board, all the work. I want to thank Tasia for stepping up during the last several months for her role. Thank you so much. Marina will be back starting in January, but Tasia, you've done an amazing job, and thank you for managing all of the things, especially the, the town halls and the, special meetings and all of that, and just everything that you do week by week. I want to thank that. I want to thank Anne in my office, who's also been stepping up to help out with these meetings as well. Thank you so much, Anne, for that and all you do for our office. And just, yeah, I really appreciate the comments. I appreciate all of you. I hope everyone has a safe, happy, and festive holiday season and gets lots of time with family, gets time to relax and rejuvenate. I do want to just mention one activity that will be happening over the holiday, or over, not the holiday weekend, over this upcoming weekend, which is the Homeless Day of Remembrance, which is happening on Sunday, the 21st. So, and this goes along with a release that will be happening tomorrow, which is the annual Domicile Unknown Report. That is a review of deaths among people experiencing homelessness. This is 2024, so the report's always about a year or so behind. But this report is a somber and important responsibility to our community to acknowledge, examine, and understand these largely preventable losses of life as we continue our work to address the conditions that contribute to these deaths of people experiencing homelessness. So I just wanted to take a moment in this meeting to express my deep appreciation for the county staff, particularly those in our medical examiner's offices, our epidemiology team, our health officer, our communications office. There's so many people who work together to create this, including their work with the families and loved ones of those whose lives were lost in 2024. This report is both factual but also very personal. It's more than a data report. It is the work to produce something that is profound and heavy and personal. And so I just want to appreciate our staff for being such thoughtful stewards of these lives and these stories. So the Homeless Day of Remembrance is on Sunday, which marks the longest night of the year. One of the memorial events will be at the St. Andre Bezet Catholic Church, also known as the Red Door. It's 601 West Burnside. That's going to be from 5 to 7. I think that these community events are such powerful moments for solidarity and support, and I wanted to make sure folks knew that they were happening this weekend if anyone is interested in attending. With that concludes our regular board meeting today, but also our board meetings for this year. So again, thank you everyone for just fantastic work in showing up for our community and really doing the work of the people for here at Multnomah County as an organization. There being no further business, we are adjourned.